Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another edition of Dark Powerrr. This is a supersized episode. There were, I should say, plural, some things that stood out to me from Elevation and Dark, but because a lot of it last week was just going to be about Power Trip, I figured why not kind of save the time and combine last week's episode of Power Trip with this week's episode of Power Trip and see how everything concluded. Also, I was a little busy with mortgage and condo stuff. I do apologize. But it all worked out in that sense, and there's a lot to talk about, guys. So we're going to get straight into it. Alrighty, guys. Thank you once again for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing, for hitting that like button, commenting, sharing, subscribing, all of the amazing things that you guys do to show us that you support us. We appreciate it all, especially if you guys are part of our Patreon. $3 a month is the entry-level tier. We appreciate everything that you guys do, whether you are a Patreon or not. But if you want that little bit of extra, if you want that little extra content, we have that there for you. I know that my other show, Fusion of Honor, is a Patreon first. You see it first on Patreon before it hits YouTube. So thank you guys for all that you do. Let's talk about let's talk about NWA Powerrr. Let's talk about all of the things that are happening on the show. Power Trip was an interesting 3-episode series, but I actually just want to get through Dark and Elevation before we get there. So the first things let's talk about are 2 matches from last week's Dark. The first of which is a match between Angelico of Jack Evans of TH2 versus Dante Martin. This match was really, really cool. And what I liked about it was that recently there hasn't been that much that stood out to me from Dark and Elevation. So I liked that we had something that did. And part of what I liked about this match was that here are 2 high flyers who we know what they can do. And what's nice about it is they do something a little bit different. They don't give us exactly what we expect, but they kind of give us what we want. This is a match that started off with high-flying moves, but moved more towards keeping it in the ring as the match went on. And I think that is really cool. Because for me, one thing that we know is that Dante Martin, and that's really what this match is about, Dante Martin, he can do those high-flying things. Of course, we know that. But the question is, can he do more than just high-flying things? Can he keep matches in the ring? Or even if it's to the outside, can he stay grounded a little bit more? And the reason isn't that we want him to be grounded. The reason is we have to know he's able to do it. Because as he progresses further and further up the AEW ladder, he has to be able to tell longer story matches. And that only happens if you stay grounded. You have to have high spots, of course, because he's an aerialist. But you have to also be able to work in the ring. And that's really what this match with Jack Evans did. He really highlighted himself there, and kudos to him for doing that. One of the other matches that stood out to me from Dark was this one here between Josh Woods and Daniel Garcia. Now, as you guys know, if you are a watcher of Fusion of Honor, Josh the Goods Woods, or Josh the Technical Beast Woods, is a technical beast. And Daniel Garcia is also that. Seeing him in the ring is really cool, because of everything that happened with Ring of Honor. Now we know that Tony has purchased Ring of Honor, and we know that Tony's going to have to stock that roster with some people. I'm really hoping that Josh Woods is one of those persons. Josh brings something to the ring that a lot of people don't. There's just a savviness about him. There's just an edge. And that's an edge that's also felt or brought when Daniel Garcia is in the ring too. So this one was a really standout match. Some nice submission moves, some nice grappling skills of 2 guys who just know what they're doing in the ring. And that's really, really cool to see. One other thing that I liked was from Elevation, and that's here between Frankie Kazarian and Allen Five Angels. It was just not necessarily something that had standout moments, but it was more just the fact that it was a bit of a longer match. And that's something that I really liked about it. They gave them the time to be able to work. So let's turn towards our 2 episodes of NWA Powerrr. The first is the middle child of the Power Trip episodes, and that starts us off with a match between the Fixers and the OGK. Now, what's kind of cool about this match, it's kind of weird. See, this is where we're equal opportunists here when it comes to praising Billy Corgan and shitting on him. Right? When he does well, we praise him. When he does poorly, we take him to task. This was something that was kind of overbooked. So this match on paper was supposed to be a no disqualification match. There's not too much heat behind this match, but all right, cool. We're going to give him a no DQ stip. Fair enough. But before the match can start, Corgan comes out and says, well, here's really what's going to happen. We're going to make this match be part of the Crockett Cup. And because it's going to be part of the Crockett Cup, it's not going to be no DQ. It's going to be a regular stipulation. It seemed a little overwrought to just get to a regular tag match, particularly because these guys came ready to brawl and fight in a no DQ situation. It just seemed a little like, did we need this? Because I guess the idea is what's more intriguing for the audience watching, or even us watching at home? A no DQ match or a regular tag match is just, hey, you're going to be in the Crockett Cup. You get to advance in the Crockett Cup if you win. I don't know. Seemed like it was a little too much or unnecessary stuff, but hey, Billy Corgan's show. We're just here watching, right? Ultimately, the Fixers get the win, which also seemed like a weird choice in booking to me. I think if it had been no DQ, it actually would have aided the OGK because, well, it evens the odds and the size and strength of the Fixers. Also, it just seems weird because you think you would want a team like the OGK continuing in the Crockett Cup. But that may also come down to what are their contracts looking like, how long they're going to be with the NWA, is it a per appearance kind of thing? All that sort of stuff. Whereas you might know that the Fixers are, let's face it, cheaper. You can afford them. So, all right, we go with what we can get. And that's fine. It just was a little, I don't know, a little off to me. The next match here that we need to talk about is, let me see. Oh, yeah. It's the return of Pope. This match, man, this was a weird one. A really, really weird one. So, for those of you that don't remember the story, Pope gets attacked by Mike Knox and Matt Cardona. He has to get stretchered. I don't think he was stretchered out, but it was a serious beatdown, and he wasn't seen for some time. He came back, did a little bit of a promo, said he was going to get his vengeance. We get it. He did his version of Hard Times. Great promo. But now we're getting the justice, right? This is the comeuppance for Mike Knox. And this match just seemed weird because Mike Knox ragdolls the shit out of Pope for basically the entire match. And you're thinking to yourself, well, all right, Pope's gonna get his comeback. Pope's gonna get that second win. And it really does seem like he's gonna do that. But the hubris of Pope, and it's not even hubris, it's not even pride. He just got full of himself. But it wasn't from a cocky and arrogant thing. It was, I've got this guy down. Let me put the hurting on him instead of just going for the pinfall, right? Because if you go for the pinfall and you win, sure, but then your opportunity to beat the shit out of the person that hurt you and put you in the hospital is gone. So from a retribution angle, from a vengeance angle, sure, you want the match to go long, but you gotta pay attention to the fact that anybody can make a comeback at any point in time. And it's kind of interesting because that's Pope's MO, right? Like, he's the kind of guy that once you get him down, he has the ability to make a comeback. You can never count him out. Here, you can never count him out, but then he gets to ahead of himself, and Mike Knox ends up taking the win. Now, it felt weird because you don't want Mike Knox to lose quickly, but you also don't want Pope to lose at all. Pope has that title shot in his back pocket from the Champions Series. I'm very interested to see where they're going to go with this. There's a roadmap that I hope they take, and we'll get into that as we get towards the last match from the second episode. But a part of me is worried or concerned that we're not going to get that match. We're not going to get that roadmap. And I really feel as though NWA is doing themselves a disservice. They don't follow that. But we'll get to that, guys, as we go a little further. Before we can get to that episode, though, we got to finish up this one. And that's where we find ourselves seeing Anthony Mayweather, formerly known as Crimson, taking on Chris Adonis for the National Heavyweight Championship. And a lot of us knew the outcome of all of the Power Trip matches, but it kind of felt as though you can see alignments happening, right? So what I mean by that is, and sometimes for a long time, Vince used to like doing this in WWE. If you have a face world champion, you have a heel mid-card champion, because you're giving your faces someone to chase in the mid-card title, and you're giving your heels someone to chase in the world championship. It makes complete and total booking sense. It's smart. If you have right now a face NWA World's Champion and two heels as your mid-card champions, you have Adonis as the heavyweight champion or national heavyweight champion, and you have Tyrus as your TV champion. Well, you may need to, switch one of those if you may be doing a switch in the world title. So here we have Crimson taking on Adonis, and Adonis has really had a pretty lackluster reign. He hasn't done much with that title. He hasn't really had to face that many people. But here, he has to face Anthony Mayweather. And of course, we know when Adonis is in a match that the Master Lock can always be around. And Mayweather has to look out for that Master Lock throughout the course of the match. He will find himself in the Master Lock, and they spend an inordinate amount of time showing how Mayweather is going to get out of the Master Lock. Now, what I did like about it was that they did not have him break the Master Lock. Thus far, I don't think anyone's broken the Master Lock in NWA. He gets out of it by forcing a roll, and that sort of gets him sliding. He tries to do a roll. It doesn't work the way he wants it to, but the momentum allows him to slide out of it. He doesn't actually physically break it. Master Lock stays intact. However, what doesn't stay intact is Adonis's national heavyweight championship run, as we do have a new champion to end this episode of Power Trip. Anthony Mayweather is your and my new national heavyweight champion. Congratulations to him. I have a feeling that has to do a little bit with the fact that he and Aldis are friends backstage, and Aldis is pretty influential when it comes to booking the NWA, and we've seen them on screen together. He's been out there with Mickie James and with Aldis, so we know that maybe it's not a situation of Aldis building a new faction. Maybe he's not there yet when it comes to being willing to trust people. And we'll talk about why in a few moments. But maybe it's a question of Mayweather's getting there, right? He's in the favor of Aldis. And that's always something that people should try to do. So, guys, let's talk about this second episode of NWA Power Trip. it's got some interesting interesting stuff, shall we say. The first match is just a whatever kind of throwaway match. It's a tag team match with the Ill Begotten teaming up with Scion, teaming up with Mims, up against Idol Mania Sports Management. See, that's I always want to say Idol. Wait, no, it's Idol Sports Mania. See, I always want to say Idol Sports Mania Management, but I think it's Idol Mania Sports Management, and one of them just rolls off the tongue better. I actually might be getting that wrong because whatever. It's Idol's group. It's basically a heel job squad with the exception of Tyrus. And here, I mean, I call them the job squad, but they're going to get the win here. The only thing that stood out about this match was the finish, and the finish is Mims doing a feat of strength, literally, of carrying Tyrus across. He's holding him, like this, and not on the shoulders, but front face, like he's gonna try to do a fall away slam or even just a slam downwards, like a world's strongest slam. Either way, I think it's Jordan Clearwater who like comes in and basically goes, "That's enough for you, big guy," and just pulls Mims down, and the weight of Tyrus just lands on Mims, knocks him out basically. 1, 2, 3, Bob's your uncle. We're gone. 6 minutes or so, nothing crazy. So let's get to more important stuff. Let's talk about the match of the night. The match of the episode, meaning the match of Power Trip. The best match we've seen in NWA for a while because it follows psychology, it tells a story, and it's really just well done because it's the two arguably best, well, one is, but the second maybe, arguably, the two best wrestlers in the NWA. Nick Aldis, Tom Latimer. I don't know if this is officially the end of the feud for sure, but it's going to pause for a while. It's an I Quit match, and it's really, really well done. I know that NWA is now on YouTube a couple days after it airs on Fight. If you get a chance, definitely check this one out because it's only about 13 minutes long. It's short, it's sweet, it gets to the point. Let's talk about this match. This one sees some crazy levels of brutality. Right here, you can't see it. I got a weird angle of it. But Latimer has the turnbuckle metal in Aldis's mouth. He's forcing him to clamp down on it as if he's trying to use it to break his jaw or unsettle his teeth. There are going to be chair shots. There's going to be chain shots. There's going to be the chain being wrapped around your arm and you pull the opponent into the post. There's going to be great submission wrestling here. The crowd is super hot for this match. This is arguably the most vicious spot of the match, where Aldis has him in kind of an inverted backpack hold, and he's just going to drop him backwards, face first, onto a chair. There's another spot that's equally as vicious, where you have Aldis puts Latimer's head and neck in the chair. They do like the hit the chair spot. He puts him into a clover. The finish is going to be he puts him into a clover leaf while the chair is still on him. Okay. But before we get to the finish, throughout the course of this match, everything that anybody does is solely to get the person to say, "I quit." And it's beautiful because that's the name of the game. And I feel like Jim Cornette right now. I really do. But the name of the game is to win. The name of the game is to hurt your opponent to the point that they have to say, "I quit." After every single move, the ref comes up to them and is like, "Hey, what do you say?" And it's smart. It's really well done. Everything either of these guys does is either directly supposed to hurt the person to the point that they say, "I quit," or it's a setup to get to a move that's going to try to force the person to say, "I quit." It's so smart because that's the name of the game. Who cares if you're, jumping off the top rope, if you're Dante Martin, and this goes to what I was saying earlier. How is Dante Martin supposed to tell an I Quit match story if he's doing corkscrew shooting star presses, 450 splashes, jumping off the... None of that matters. In an I Quit match, the goal is to make your opponent say, I quit. All your aerial moves don't mean anything. And Aldis and Latimer know that. And they tell a very good story. Because everybody is protected at the end of the day. What happens is Aldis has him in the clover leaf, and the chair is clamping down on Latimer's neck. He can't breathe. And he refuses to say, I quit. He only loses this match because Camille comes out and throws in the towel. It's a smart finish that protects Latimer. He never said I quit. It protects Aldis. He won the match. It actually is smart from a humanizing angle for Camille because it shows that there's someone or something that she cares about. In the women's division, she has this portrayal of not giving a shit about anything or anybody other than defending the title. And she looks down on everybody. She has contempt for all of her opponents. Fine. But even a heel has feelings. Even villains have feelings, guys. And having her be the one to throw in the towel, super smart move. Liked it, protected everybody involved. And as we'll see, has some ramifications for our next and final match. Trevor Murdoch putting the NWA Championship on the line. NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. The title with the most history in wrestling. On the line against Matt Cardona. The story is a story. It's a pretty straightforward story to how we got here. It's nothing too complicated. And sometimes simple is good, is the best. The match is cool because Cardona, don't get me twisted. Murdoch is not the greatest wrestler in the world. And having someone like Cardona in there with him, really good. Because where Murdoch is lacking, Cardona excels. Cardona sells to a crowd better facial expressions, but Murdoch has something about him that makes you want to root for him. He has something about him that can generate a crowd being behind him. Always important. Always ready Matt Cardona is going to start the match by continually rolling out of the ring and actually saying he's not ready. A great irony for the heel who says to be proven to be a liar. It's a quick match. It's about 11 minutes long. But what it does is it cements Cardona as a main event star for the NWA. And what's cool about it is he didn't need to be cemented. He already was. But it's that rubber stamp. And for Murdoch, it validates everything that he was trying to prove to Nick Aldis back when they were feuding. He can be the guy. He can be that guy to carry the company. He can have the match that makes you care. Murdoch is able to tap into a lot of what made Harley Race really good. And when he blades, because he clearly does blade, he's thrown to the outside into the concrete, and they cut away to Cardona, and Cardona's just in the ring for an inordinate amount of time. Just, when you should be trying to get the person back into the ring in order to pin them, that's when Murdoch is blading. And it's hidden, as you can see, because the crowd's having a little bit of difficulty because of steps, because of the announce table. When he blades, you think about the fact that you got to bleed to earn it. And Murdoch already has the title, but what he's bleeding to earn is respect. It's not your respect. It's not my respect. It's Harley's respect. In his mind, he has to do this. He has to try to push through. He has to fight in order to be the champion that Harley was. And kudos to him, props to him. I think he's done it. It's a short title reign, 167 days, but it told a really cool story throughout the course. He didn't have the greatest of opponents. He didn't have the greatest of stories, but he carried himself throughout all of it the way that a champion should. I don't know if he's ever going to get the title back. He's a little on the older side. This might have been a swan song for him. He's getting ready to retire. He did retire at one point for a couple of years, but he came back. And I think that this could have been, the last final thing for him to finally be a world's champion. That might have been why Corgan did it. So thank you for Trevor for everything you've done. Let's talk about this guy right here. Cardona is going to win the title. He's going to have his celebration. He's going to say that he's going to be the greatest NWA World's Heavyweight Champion there's ever been. And that's when Nick Aldis' music plays. And that's why I said, I don't know if the feud with Latimer is over. It may have just been paused. All this is going to come out and say to Cardona or inform Cardona that he never received his contractual rematch clause. Contractual rematch. Because of the contractual rematch clause with Murdoch. Now, we can say, hey, too bad. But there is actually a pretty good reason as to why Aldis didn't get that rematch clause. It's because shortly thereafter, I think the next week on Powerrr, after Hard Times 2, he gets the shit beaten out of him by Latimer. So you have to focus somewhere else. So it's completely understandable in that sense. This is going to be a good match. It's going to be a good feud. And this is where I talk about the roadmap. I don't think Aldis should win. Because I don't think that Aldis needs to be the savior of the NWA. Which is funny considering Cardona calls himself the savior, right? I think that Aldis needs to fail. Because Aldis succeeds a little too much. But more importantly, Aldis failing shows that Cardona is serious about who he is. It shows that everything he's saying, he's backing up. And who can really be the savior of the NWA if Nick Aldis can't beat Cardona? What if it's the Pope? And that's where I'm going to leave you guys. Because as Power Trip ends, so too is this episode of Dark Powerrr ending. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for being a subscriber, hitting that like button, commenting, sharing, all the things that you guys do, being part of our live streams, being part of everything that we guys are trying to work with you guys on and present to you guys, and potentially being part of our Patreon. We appreciate all of it. We have a lot of things in store for 2022, the rest of the year, and we hope that you guys will be on that journey with us. We are pushing towards 3,000 subscribers. It's huge. It's incredible. I want to thank you guys. It means a lot from all of us. So until next time, guys, remember, take care of yourselves. Take care.